Hulk Hogan is the most recognizable of all wrestlers. When you think wrestling, you think Hulk Hogan. But why him? Why specifically him? What did he have that the others didn't have, and that we can use to learn French in a 74-inch python type of way? After all, there were many other wrestlers at the time of Hulk Hogan. Brutus the Barber, Andre the Giant, Roddy Piper. What made him him? What made him so unique? Which were the principles of his success? Now think about Hulk Hogan for a second. If you had to imitate Hulk Hogan, what would you do? Well, you'd probably wear a bandana. You'd probably have the moustache. You'd probably rip your shirt. You'd do the poses. You'd probably listen at all four corners of the ring, see if the fans were cheering on. You'd do the leg drop. You'd say, "What you gonna do?" You'd talk about brother at the beginning, at the end of every sentence. There's a large number of principles. You talk about the 3 demandments. These are the principles of his success. These are the foundations of Hulk Hogan's success. Foundational principles. And the man understood the foundational principles better than the Heart Foundation. Now, if you're a wrestling fan, you'll get that joke. He understood the foundational principles. And let's compare Hulk Hogan for a second to other wrestlers around his time. Roddy Piper. What did Roddy Piper have? Well, Roddy Piper had a kilt, he had a bad temper, and he had bagpipes. That's 3 principles, that's 3 foundational principles, as opposed to Hulk Hogan's 10, and 3 of them were boring anyway. Let's think about Rick Rude. Rick Rude had quite a lot. He had the moustache, he had the body, he had the tights, he had the "let me take my robe off." He had the antics in the ring, the squiggly on the floor each time he was hurt. He had the rude awakening move, he had the saxophone music at the beginning, and he had the kiss. That's at least 8 or 9 principles that make Rick Rude that much better. Not quite Hulk Hogan, but really up there. What about Coco Beware? Coco Beware, he had a boring parrot. That's 1 principle. No one cared about Coco Beware. So you see where we're going with this? Hulk Hogan had 10 foundational principles. When it comes to learning French, it's the same thing. You want quantifiable, foundational principles to make sure you're not learning French in a Coco Beware type of way. How many principles does your French teacher or your language school have? Is the classroom nice? Are the chairs comfortable? Is the teacher nice? Well, these are not principles. This has nothing to do with your learning of French. This is a main event between the Brooklyn Brawler and Hacksaw Jim Duggan. It does nothing for your French. These are not principles. Now, it just so happens that I have, near my hand, a series of principles that you may wish to consider. For example, is your teacher as much a speaker of French as a speaker of English? Is your teacher a native speaker of both these languages? Does your teacher know English as a native? Does your teacher have any clue what it's like to learn French as a speaker of English? Does your French teacher teach French? Well, I hope they do. Does your French teacher teach English as a first and a second language? Are your French classes specifically made for speakers of English? Does your French school have any specificity, any point that makes it unique? Have they in any way, shape or form questioned tradition? Or are they just going along with what everyone else is doing? Is your language school charging you by the hour without quite knowing why? Is your French school giving away, as we do, tens of hours of free learning material available day or night? Is the outcome, is the goal of these classes clearly defined? Have they thought up a system that resets the class at every class and guarantees that learning takes place? Does your French teacher have passion? Does your French teacher know exactly what it's like to grow up in a French-speaking environment and an English-speaking environment? Can they bridge these 2 languages together? Are they perfectly bilingual to make your learning easier? Does your French teacher qualify to teach in Europe, in the UK, in the US? Can they transition between these schools? And does your school charge ridiculous rates without quite knowing why? What are the principles that guarantee that you are learning French in a Hulk Hogan type of way? Who do we have next? We have Jake the Snake. Jake the Snake. What did Jake the Snake have? Well, evidently he had a moustache. He had the way of speaking. He had the tights. He had the DDT move. He had the entrance music. He had Damien the Snake. That's about 5 principles.